I watched 3 different videos about race. The first video was called A Class Divided, the second video was How Structural Racism Works, and the last video was called White Privilege 101. In the first video, A Class Divided, the teacher did a lesson on a group of students in the classroom. She started off by saying people with blue eyes are better than people with brown eyes. The next day, she switched it up, saying people with brown eyes are better than people with blue eyes. The people with blue eyes came in without their glasses on if they wore them, so people could see their eye color better and not get it mistaken until she switched it up. She told the students that the people with blue eyes are not allowed to hang out or talk to anyone with brown eyes, and they were also not allowed on any of the playground equipment at recess. I think this is something very good that she did. Although it may have made students upset or very happy, they will then start to understand how it makes people feel when you discriminate them on something they cannot change, and none of that matters on who the person is. They can't change how they look, and none of that affects the person or how you should think of that person. It is teaching them an important lesson on how it makes people feel when they are left out or separated from the others, just because of their skin color, but in this case because of their eye color. Both are things they cannot change about themselves. After the children grew up and became adults, they came back and talked about how the lesson affected them and how they feel now because of the lesson they were taught when they were younger. I think that is something great that the students that were taught and put in the colored skins people's shoes came back to talk about how much that lesson changed their life and how they think now. There was also another lesson with adults. It was the same thing about their eye color, but the people with blue eyes were not allowed to sit next to anyone with brown eyes or even sit at all. They also got treated very poorly. This is sad that people get treated this way, but is showing them how the people of color feel often and that it is not fair and it is very hurtful towards them. The second video we watched was How Structural Racism Works. This video is about the study of race and ethnicity in America. It says how every aspect of life that we can think about is a significant form of elements of structural racism. This is kind of sad to me that every aspect of life that we can think about are elements of structural racism. There is a huge facial disparity in what people think about when racial equality will be achieved. Lawrence Bobo is a sociologist who was at Harvard that did a study that shows 61% of white think we've already achieved equality. I feel like there shouldn't be a huge racial disparity of when people think racial equality will be achieved. They also talked about the fact that neighborhoods where any black people lived were marked red and were given the lowest ratings and ruled completely ineligible for home or business loans. I don't think it's fair that just because they were black, that area was marked red and given the lowest ratings. The last video we watched was called White Privilege 101. This video talked about what white privilege is and different things about white privilege. White privilege is a specific set of options, opportunities, and opinions that are systematically gained and maintained at the expense of people who are not white. Institutional racism is racism that is embedded as normal practice within society or an organization. They said that institutional racism is often invisible. They told us how one guy's father was able to buy a house after World War II with veteran and administration loan. I wonder why he was able to buy a house with veteran and administration loans. An interesting fact that I found out was African Americans always talked about racism and race, and since they always talked about it, they thought white people also always talked about race, and she was surprised when she realized white people didn't talk about it as much. The last interesting fact I found was that we live in a world of 6 billion people, and only 12% of them are white, and 1% of the population owns 40% of the wealth. All 3 of these videos were very interesting to me, and I really enjoyed watching them and learning new things that I did not know before.